Thank you. So welcome everybody to the second hour of Mindshifters Radio, and today is Tuesday, May the 16th, 2023, and our calling number is 563-999-3581, and press 1, and that puts you into queue. And we would love to hear your comments and questions because that makes this your show. A few minutes before he gets on with us, so I've got a reading that I'm going to do, but first I'd like to say that if you go to our website and click, and our website's WhyAgain.org, click on schedule and go down to Global Online Book Club, and that's where I'm trying to do it at the same time I'm talking. And you scroll down just a little bit and you'll see the archived sessions, and so the one that they just did on May the 11th, on Chapter 3. They're going one chapter at a time, so you can go back and look, and there's Chapter 1, Chapter 2, and Chapter 3 so far. And Yinka does PowerPoints to go with the book chapters, and so go click on those and watch them. We have them on our YouTube channel now as well. And we invite you to go out and look around. If you find anything that's not working, please let me know. Drop me a line at Jeanie, Jeanie, at whyagain.org, and I will attempt to fix whatever isn't working right. So, like I said yesterday, I have started the Untethered Soul. You're going to have to wait a minute, baby. The Untethered Soul by Michael Singer. And I talked a little bit about the first chapter where he talks about the voice in your head. So I'm going to start with Chapter 2 and read. This is called The Inner Roommate. Your inner growth is completely dependent upon the realization that the only way to find peace and contentment is to stop thinking about yourself. You're ready to grow when you finally realize that the I, who is always talking inside, will never be content. That's what Michael was talking about yesterday, that the ego continuously ask questions until its last question is answered, and then it'll finally shut up, and then you can get to being. So it says, you're ready to grow when you finally realize that the I, who is always talking inside, will never be content. It always has a problem with something. Honestly, when was the last time you really had nothing bothering you? Before you had your current problem, there was a different problem. And if you're wise, you will realize that after this one's gone, there will be another one. The bottom line is, you'll never be free of problems until you are free from the part within that has so many problems. When a problem is disturbing you, and of course we know that's nothing can disturb you, but it has come up inside of you and brought up disturbance. Don't ask, what should I do about it? But instead ask, what part of me is being disturbed by this or triggered by this? If you ask, what should I do about it, you've already fallen into believing that there really is a problem outside that must be dealt with. If you want to achieve peace in the face of your problems, you must understand why you perceive a particular situation as a problem. If you're feeling jealousy, instead of trying to see how you can protect yourself, just ask, what part of me is jealous? That will cause you to look inside and see that there is a part of you that is having a problem with jealousy. Once you clearly see the disturbed part, then ask, who is it that sees this? Who notices this inner disturbance? And this is the solution to your every problem. The very fact that you can see the disturbance means that you are not it. The process of seeing something requires a subject-object relationship. The subject is called the witness because it is the one who sees what's happening. The object is what you are seeing, in this case, the inner disturbance. This act of maintaining objective awareness of the inner problem is always better than losing yourself in the outer situation. This is the essential difference between a spiritual-minded person and a worldly person. Worldly doesn't mean that you have money or stature. Worldly means that you think the solution to your inner problems is in the world outside. You think that if you change things outside, you'll be okay. But nobody has ever truly become okay by changing things outside. There's always the next problem. Are you? Wait, please. The only real solution is to take the seat of witness consciousness and completely change your frame of reference. Excuse me just a moment. Sweetie, I'm reading.
I'm not reading.
Okay. All right. To attain true inner freedom, you must be able to objectively watch your problems instead of being lost in them. That's what Michael talks about, being the actor apart from the action and being the observer apart from being what's observed. No solution can possibly exist while you're lost in the energy of the problem. Everyone knows you can't deal well with a situation if you're getting anxious, scared, or angry about it. The first problem you have to deal with is your own reaction. You will not be able to solve anything outside until you own how the situation affects you inside. Problems are generally not what they appear to be. When you get clear enough, you will realize that the real problem is that there is something inside of you that can have a problem with almost anything. The first step is to deal with that part of you. This involves a change from outer solution consciousness to inner solution consciousness. You have to break the habit of thinking that the solution to your problems is to rearrange things outside. The only permanent solution to your problems is to go inside and let go of the part of you that seems to have so many problems with reality. Once you do that, you'll be clear enough to deal with what's left. So I'm going to stop right there, and I'm going to see if anybody has a question or a comment about that. If you have read this book, or if you've done, now it also has a workbook that goes along with it. So if you've ever done Michael Singer's books or reading or anything like that, you might have a comment about that. Oh, I see Michael has joined us, so I'm going to turn on his microphone. Hi there.
Thank you, sweetie. That was very delicate the way you said that. So I have a comment that you're going to turn on my microphone.
Oh. Okay.
Okay. Anyway, yeah, my comment, as you were reading that right toward the end, what came to me is the ultimate trap of the ego in its problems is like, well, yes, everything's okay right now, but just wait, the other shoe is going to drop. The fear game of the non-being mind, and how it's founded in the whole structure that most people call the self doesn't even exist except as a set of frequencies held in brain cells. And for most people, that set of frequencies is based in some form of hostility and fear. And that hostility and fear, recognizing how perception is constructed. And as you read through Mickey's book, it'll be interesting to see how he deals with, or what he comes up with as what's the structure behind this. But in terms of the work of the Why Is This Happening to Me Again work, you know, looking at Yeshua 2,000 years ago saying, in order for you to live, you've got to die. And the die isn't about your physiology. It's about the self that you've been trained to think you are, that you've come to believe that you are, that's based in hostility, fear, and problems. And recognizing that it's just a structure that is generated by the mind. And the number one skill to be acquired is the ability to collapse that structure. And this genius mind 2,000 years ago came along with a total, complete 1,000% solution. In fact, it's interesting, the same solution is presented in A Course in Miracles, and the Course talks about forgiveness as the only single-edged sword. In other words, everything else that you could come up with, every explanation, everything, the non-being mind can turn against itself, but not forgiveness. And the reason for that is because the core of forgiveness lies in understanding that the constructs of the mind are nothing but constructs of the mind, whether they're about self or somebody else, And that means that they're based in content that we hold within us, and that the application of forgiveness collapses that construct. That's why it's the only single-edged sword. I mean, it makes such perfect sense when you get down to the root of it and the understanding that Yeshua had and presented 2,000 years ago, and then reiterates in Course in Miracles. And that solution lies in a single sentence. And the Course in Miracles talks about that whole process as one that, quote, cannot but fail to be completely understood. Denied, yes, but not ambiguous. And if you deny it now, it will be because the cost seemed too high. And what's the cost? What's the cost of forgiveness? You've got to give up these perceptual constructs that are based in I'm right, you're wrong, it's settled by why argue? You know, somebody else is the enemy, somebody else is the problem, blah, 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 blah. And so understanding that the core of forgiveness, very concisely stated by Course in Miracles, speaks of the fact that I must let go. I must remove. The way the Course says it specifically is open a curtain in your practicing by merely letting go all the things you think you want, i.e. your goals. The Course goes on in that passage to say, your trifling treasure put away. Why is this a single-edged sword? Because when your trifling treasure, the thing you think you want, aside from experiencing yourself as love, as the human being that you are, there are a million things, a million desires in the naked city, and not one of them leads to satisfaction. You might remember that song, I don't remember the name of the band that had out a few decades ago. I can't get no satisfaction. And there is no satisfaction in anything that your mind can generate. There might be some fun, there might be some good distraction, but ultimately collapsing those perceptual constructs of the mind by canceling the driver that drives your mind to function out of that problem state of unresolved generational traumas. And as you do that, continuously, consistently, persistently, each time you do that, you open a curtain, you open a space for the active presence of love to arrive in your mind. And as that active presence of love dawns upon you, you get to start to realize that that's who you are. That's what you are, as Dr. Jim was saying. You know, it's the only thing that's true about us. All the rest is just structure, and yep, we can find a lot of evidence for certain structures in our minds. But not one true word has ever been spoken by that mind. Well, Michael, what do you mean, not one true word? Of course, you're even explaining to us in words. Well, but I'm not proclaiming that any word I'm saying is true. Words are nothing but symbols of constructs of the mind, and constructs of the mind are nothing but symbols of what's actually going on in the world. And recognizing that, you replace the fallacy of self, lowercase s, self, with the ongoing realization of who you are. And then once the realization of who you are happens, then the functioning of who you are begins. The functioning of a human being as love doesn't begin until the realization comes, who I am, what I'm here for, and how I function. And that discovery comes from the single-edged sword of forgiveness. search. I've been on this path. I've been doing this search for 50 years. I've gone in every direction. I've been to China looking. I've been to Tibet. I've been to India. I've looked everywhere. And came back home to the first century Aramaic words of Yeshua. And I haven't found anybody else that even starts to hold a candle to the truth he brought forward. And here it is. There's one single-edged sword. If you are in pain, if you are in error, or if you are in trauma of any sort, the root of that is the unresolved energetic patterns within yourself. Access those patterns out of a growing state of awareness of yourself as the conscious active presence of love. Treat yourself and others out of that state of active present love, and human life blossoms, and we're all here to blossom as human beings. So thank you, Mickey. Thank you, Michael Singer, for writing those words and opening that statement, and thank you, Jeanie, for sharing it as an opening.
Yeah, absolutely.
This might be a fun format to do on the show for a while. That maybe we start out reading a passage or two, and then let's go into it from the perspective of the why work. Might be an interesting new way to move forward.
I agree. That works. And I only read the first 2 paragraphs of that chapter. So there's a lot to do, a lot to cover. And we do have a hand up.
Awesome. Let's say hello.
Okay, give me just a minute. I just walked into the other room a second. I had to pick something up there, so sorry. Apologies for that delay. And I believe that it is Miss Cecilia. It's area code 480. You are on the air.
Hi, everybody.
Hey, young lady. How are you today?
Fine. Your work is just incredibly powerful in my life. I can tell you I've been doing the intensive that I didn't really commit to back in 2021.
Right.
I've been doing,
You're rocking on it?
Yeah, mind shifters. I've been doing a lot of stuff. Now, let me tell you a testimonial. I had 2 offers on my Phoenix house, and I got a call from my realtor over the weekend. I didn't get excited about it because my priority is about being connected to my source, okay? That's
nice.
My primary goal, and that surprised me because I would have been jumping up and down in the street, you know. So
I hear you. There's no bigger prize.
So that was a testimonial. Another testimonial. Years ago, you told me to, I don't know how you told me, I was looking for a non-anesthesia person to help clean my 6 dog's teeth, help me clean, because I can clean, but I just need help. And it was real cool, and it never happened. And so the same day that my house got 2 offers, a text came to me that she didn't even text me. She does non-anesthesia teeth cleaning. Anyway, she came by yesterday, and we cleaned all 6 teeth, okay? The next thing, and that is most important, is on Mother's Day, my son-in-law and daughter came over, and Nicole was telling them about that the eyes don't see what's out there. It sees what's, some
your mind's producing, yeah.
Yes, and I said, and I hallucinated about the Malloys, which is my family, and your dad, and they couldn't speak, okay? This is, I mean, I didn't enter gradually to talk about your stuff, but I could, it just came out, and I thought that, and I think that they were actually listening without arguing, okay? And so I said, this means that I can have a relationship with the Malloys again. And she said, why would you want to? And I said, why wouldn't I want to? And see, I was her power person, so she got the stuff that I have, right? So that was all great, the greatest Mother's Day in the world. And she doesn't get why it was the greatest Mother's Day for me, but she thinks I need to get a life. And so during the next day, it came to me, you know, this would mean the world to her if I were to do this for her father. So, I mean, I don't even know if it would, because remember when Olivia, the one that wrote the book, Benson, and about fathers and not having a father, and she didn't, you know, her father was absent, you know, so, and you suggested that I break her into, you know, this work somehow, right? Well, that's how it came out yesterday. So, and the idea came to me is that I do a letter like the Dear Dad letter that somebody did. I don't know why I have it, but you guys had a way to give me a copy of it. The Dear Dad letter from somebody talking to their alcoholic dad and telling him.
Yeah, that's the Respons-Ability Communication component. You'll come to that in the intensive as you go on. You'll come to that core piece of the puzzle.
Yeah, well, I did it anyway, and I thought, I mean, I'm working on it anyway, and I thought not only am I going to do this for my family, I'm going to do it for her father, who was the guy that, you know, and when I hallucinated, tried to kill me, right, when she was young.
Yeah.
And I thought, you know, and we'll get together, and Michelle and me and him can get together occasionally as a family. And she can see that things healed, you know.
Healing happens. Yay. Nice work.
And that will hopefully change her perception, right, of life, right? And maybe her little Grinch heart will grow. You know? Possibilities.
Yeah. That's, you know, there's that old saying, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink, but you can make him thirsty. What you're doing is what's called making him thirsty.
I'll make him thirsty, yeah.
If you try to force feed him water, it'll never work. But if you make him thirsty, he'll drink.
and I also heard it opens the window for everybody involved. You know, when I heard part of the show yesterday when that caller called in, if he does the work, he opens the window for all involved to heal, to do healing work.
Not only all involved, like, for instance, in his family system or yours, but anybody on the planet that has a similar issue. I don't care if they're in Tibet or China or where they are. If they have a similar issue, each person that opens that energy window of healing makes it a little easier for the next person to pass through the door. So we're not just doing this work for ourselves. You know, the principle is it's elucidating in the Course in Miracles. When you are healed, you are never healed alone.
Right.
So nice work.
Now that you're on the Course in Miracles, do you recommend me getting your I did do Course in Miracles for many, many, many years, but I couldn't get it. And I saw on your website, and you guys do a great job of interpreting it. And so is that what that video is that I could get so that I can finally get the course? Yes, okay.
It's in the catalog, and there's also a 48 tape, or 48, they're 90 to 120 minute audio lectures on Course in Miracles. Most of the series in that 48 CD series or download series is on the Course in Miracles. And yeah, I've taught the course for 40 plus years, and I've actually, and I've done, traveled, how I used to travel, and I've done Course in Miracles groups all over the country, and I've never met another person who has understood how forgiveness is done.
Okay.
And I'm saying from working with the Course, and I never understood it from the Course. I only understood it when I started to get it from the first century Aramaic and Yeshua's teachings. And it was like then when I had the brain cells from the Aramaic and I went to the Course, like, oh my God, there it is. In Aramaic, the word forgive is shabag, which means to cancel. I go to the Course in that lesson, open a curtain in your practice, and what's it say? Let go all the things you think you want. There it is. Cancel the goals. Your trifling treasure, put away.
Okay.
You collapse perception. You've left a clean and open space in your mind for love to show up. And what else matters if that's what you're getting? And, it sounds like you're right on track for it. So thanks for being ready and willing. That's awesome, and sharing it with us.
So I wonder if I need help writing this. Is it called what the dad letter is? What is it called again? A communication letter?
Responsibility communication.
Yes.
If you want to write it,
Yeah.
if you want to write it and email it to me, and just send me a text letting me know you've emailed it. Like I've got more emails than I can keep up with. Send me a text. I'll look at it and I'll give you feedback on it. So be delighted to.
All right. Well,
awesome.
I wanted to share one more testimonial, and then I'll let you go. So, the guy came by who's doing my deck. And there's carpenter bees and stuff that I don't want them to kill. Okay, but they got to put soap in the nest. So it's killing this really humongous deck that the person that built this house built. Okay, and they're kind of chewing holes in the whole thing, right? So, and I know I don't want to kill insects either. Okay. And so I said, I won't use your.
But the bottom line is.
Go ahead.
The bottom line is, what's we don't need really know a lot about the bees, but what's the bottom line of the testimonial that you want to offer? What opened for you?
Oh yes. The bottom line is that I shared with him things that I was working on I'm very friendly to people come over, and for some reason, I started talking about what I'm working on, right, with you. And then when he stopped working and stayed here two extra hours just to listen and ask questions.
Did you give him the information for the radio show?
Yes, I gave him the radio
awesome.
show link. I gave him the why again. I gave him a worksheet. He wanted the worksheet. I gave him a commitment. Awesome. And he said, yeah, so he's coming by tomorrow, and I don't know. He said, you're really, really wise. I said, we all are, but, we have things that block it,
Well,
Anyway.
You said you wanted to teach, so it sounds like it's opening for you. There you go.
It is, and it comes out so
awesome.
nicely. So anyway, I appreciate everything. Unbelievable. Thank you. Or
awesome.
should I say believable?
And when it's believable, that very good catch. And when it's firsthand experience as opposed to, sitting in a pew somewhere and hearing somebody talk about something but not having the actual experience,
yes,
it becomes hollow. But when you've got the experience, people get the energy. So nice work, and delighted you're passing it on. All right. Have a blessed one.
Thanks. Bye.
All right. Blessings. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Sweet. Rock and roll. The single-edged sword. Again, it's just mind-boggling how simple the solution is. I'm in upset, and so I locate the goal that I'm holding for whoever or whatever I'm focused on, whether it's me or someone else, and I cancel that goal. Again, the Aramaic word that's been translated as forgiveness is shabag or shabak, and it literally means to cancel. And when I cancel a goal, when I sincerely cancel a goal, the whole complex structured by my mind collapses in on itself. And that's when I get to touch my own unconscious mind. Took me 35 years of working with first century Aramaic forgiveness to understand that one sentence. That's the power. That's where the real crux of forgiveness is. So inviting you into the practice. And, there's that circumstance where I think it was Peter that said, how many of these worksheets do we have to do anyway? Is 7 enough? He said in the form of, and how many times should I forgive as to my brother? By the way, those two little words, the Greeks translate, how many times should I forgive my brother, like I'm going to let my brother off the hook for something? But in Aramaic, in each case where the implication is you're forgiving someone else, they left out those two words. How many times should I forgive as to my brother? So I interact with my brother and my rage comes up. Do I forgive my brother because rage is being generated by my mind, by my physiology? No. But I forgive not my brother, but as to what my brother has brought. So my brother brought up my rage. So then we could more correctly hear Peter's question of Yeshua. How many times should I forgive as to what my brother brings up in me? Now we're back on track with actual forgiveness. Sadly, in all the interactions I've done with people working with A Course in Miracles, unless they've worked with the first century Aramaic ideas of Yeshua, I haven't met one person that knows how to do forgiveness. There's all kinds of conversation about it. And actually, there are a lot of conversations that go on. If you go on Facebook, there are many, many, many Course in Miracles groups you can join, and I've joined most of them. And I tap into them, and usually what I hear is some kind of an argument where somebody's trying to convince somebody else of the truth. I promise I will never try to convince you of the truth. We know what you are because it showed up when forgiveness occurred. We can explain to you with words how forgiveness is done. That's the limit of what language can do, what words can do. It's another passage in the Course that speaks about, you go back to the words that the world of darkness, in other words, the world of perception, where there is no live experience, there's just regenerating from past content. You go back to that world of words, in this case the Course refers to it as darkness, and proclaim its unreality. You'll notice if you go back and listen to all the years of this radio show, every interaction, none of it's about telling you what's true, except as to how to use the tools. Here are the directions. Words can do that. Here are the directions, how to use the tools. But otherwise, it's like, well, you're telling me that you're enraged, but the truth about you is love. So rage is a lie. What does the Course say? Go back to the world of the world of words, the world of darkness, only to proclaim its unreality that still has meaning in the world that darkness rules. So yes, we'll give directions with these tools, but the ultimate truth, I don't know what it is. I experience new levels of it every day and feel like, very recently feeling like, gee, I'm just starting to grasp it. I'm just starting to understand it. And then a new piece of work comes up at another level of, oh, that's it. But can I talk about it? Can I put it into words? No. Words are symbols of symbols. That's all they are. Your mind produces pictures, they're symbols. And then you put words to the symbols, and now we're trying. So I watch lots of Course in Miracles groups on Facebook. The people will be arguing about what the Course interpretation, what's true, what's accurate. It's like, well, it would be good to go back and look at the passage in the Course that says the truth can't be represented in words. Can't do it. So what's all this argument about? Egos bouncing off, trying to prove to other egos that they know. I don't know the ultimate truth of your life or my own. I know the experience of being, the experience of love. I know that we can each have that experience. If you listen, and thank you again for calling in and sharing what you just shared. If you go back a couple of years ago and the amount of trauma you were in, and when you first called just a few weeks ago, proclaiming you were ready to go to work, the amount of trauma you were in. And what a turnaround. That's how fast it can happen. Of course, the readiness helps. Because until somebody's ready, no, hold on to those old realities, those old explanations as though they were gold, as though they were life itself. And they're not. So delighted that you're here to share this space with us, and we've still got, boy, it seems like the show's been going on for an hour already, at least to me, but we've still got almost 30 minutes left. So if you're out there in listener land, how about showing us a hand and saying hello and sharing with us what's going on in your world, what's going on in your mind, what's going on in your process? How can we support you?
We have a hand.
Oh, great. Let's say hello.
It is area code 610. I believe it's Susan. Welcome to the show. Wait a minute. Your microphone. There it goes. Okay. Hey.
Hey.
Welcome,
Good
young
show.
lady.
Yep. Well, good show. I don't know how you do it. You always have something that is new. Sometimes there are a few oldies in there, and then you get a new one. It's very helpful. Thank you. You have to have oldies. What are you going to do? Talk for an hour every day, 5 days a week? Going to be some reruns.
Well, when someone gives us the privilege of a conversation, it gets a lot easier.
I'm sure it does, and I understand. Talk about a new level. Okay, it was about a few weeks ago, months maybe, that I've been reading this book with Dr. Tim, A Walk in the Physical. And there was an amazing release of terrible fear of death in me, which holds it's still true. So what happens? I learned that my blood sugar is up. I'm not diabetic quite. My blood pressure went up from 90/60, which has been all my life, to about 124/80, which is my heart doctor said, hey, you have to take this statin. And I was telling you about that. I took the statin.
Wait a minute. Because of 124/80, is that because of your heart device? I mean,
Yes,
124/80 sounds like pretty good blood pressure to me.
I'm glad to hear that. What I'm going to say is that, okay, fear came up. Not that I was going to die. That's okay. But I want to be really powerful until I die, and I don't want anybody messing with my health. So I listened to this guy named Eric Berg because I took a statin, and as I was telling you, after a wonderful period of tremendous vitality, suddenly I experienced tremendous fatigue, and you thought it might be a healing crisis, and it may well have been, but it didn't go away. And I read side effects of statins include fatigue in some people. I got in touch with a doctor, and I love it that you know about forgiveness and you're a nutrition expert. Yay! So I can ask you these things. I called him and he said, well, you should be on the statin, but why don't you go off for 2 weeks? I think it's probably long COVID that you've got. You probably just had this post-COVID fatigue. I thought, this is new. This is really new. I went off, and in a day and a half, I was back to my regular self. So I said to him, well, I think we found the culprit, and it is the statin. What now? And he said, I'll put you on a different one. And I said, wait a minute. Is there nothing I can do outside of taking a statin drug, which I've heard a lot of bad things about? And he said, well, there are some bad things, but in your case, you know, you're in a category where you have a 14% higher risk of stroke and heart attack because of your family history, too. There's a lot of that stuff. Diabetes, angina, strokes. My mother had tons of mini strokes, and her blood pressure went from very low to suddenly labile, and it went out of control at times, and she had many, many strokes, little teeny strokes, and she was okay, but much weakened by them. So I thought, okay, I'm going to do what this Dr. Berg said, and I'm on this intermittent fasting, a very simple keto diet, but not a whole lot of protein, mostly vegetables, certain allowed fruits, eating twice a day, 11 o'clock in the morning and about 6 at night, and fasting for the rest. And it is great, but I have this little watch that I got as a reward from filling out a survey that's like a mini, one of those Apple Watches, and it measures blood pressure and blood glucose. And they're just as high as they were before. And that's why I'm asking you, what's going on here? How long do I have to wait with this ideal diet and feeling good to have those numbers go down? And the goal is to get them down. And I'm asking you, maybe I should give up the goal and forget about it. Did any of that make any sense?
Well, as I said way earlier in the show, there is one single-edged sword, and that's forgiveness.
Yeah.
So what keeps your mind occupied in trauma around this issue? And have you canceled that goal?
Obviously not. And I know about canceling goals. Sorry, Michael. I mean, I'm an experienced student, but I feel as if I went back to first base over this.
Well, and each time we hit a new level of vitality and a new depth of whatever it is we've been hiding for ourselves comes up, that's going to be the experience. That's exactly what happens. It's like I don't know anything. And we default, we go right back to our most basic power person message about ourselves. And usually that power person message is one of how you're broken.
Mm. Well,
So have you done that worksheet yet?
No. I wouldn't even know how to begin.
Well, you begin by describing the conversation we've just had, and then list your goal. What's my goal? I want to be vital till the day I die. Sounds like kind of a summation of what you shared with us.
Okay.
So what's forgiveness going to look like in that situation? Oh, well, there you go. But that's going to be it. That's the one that's going to take you to what's underneath this whole pressure that you're keeping yourself under. Recognizing that blood pressure is just another form of pressure.
I don't really understand what you mean by that. Blood pressure is just another form of pressure.
Well, notice that, like right now, the goal you've just shared with us that you've confronted is, I want to be vital till the day I die. It's like what I heard you say is, I have no concern about dying. I've made peace with that. If I do, I do. And I want to be vital till the day I do.
Yeah.
So what I'm suggesting is that's your next forgiveness piece, to cancel that goal and see what's underneath that.
Would that mean...
And maybe there's a memory of watching someone, aged in your family dying and suffering and not having vitality. Maybe that's what needs to be processed, and maybe that's just using that as an example of what you might uncover, that's the underlying energy that keeps this blood pressure thing happening. The underlying mind energy that needs to be cleared out.
So I don't have to say, oh, okay, it's all right if I get really decrepit and hang around for years and years at the expense and exhaustion of my family.
Ah, there you go. There it is. There it is. So there's your mind shifter. It's safe and healing for me to get old, decrepit, and hang around and cost my family millions. That would be the perfect mind shifter that will show you what, this might be something 10 generations old that's still in your mind energy structure and driving physiology with this trauma, this dis-ease, as they call it.
It struck me so funny the way you put that.
Yeah, well, there you go. So that would be a perfect mind shifter to work with. Sit with that quietly and see what that surfaces. Remembering that the idea of a mind shifter is to ferret out, to resonate everything that's in the unconscious that needs to be cleaned up, that isn't based in love.
Boy, that's a juicy one. Okay. Yeah. You know what I want to do is call my sisters, the two living sisters, call my brother, ask them what their blood pressure is, and ask them what their cholesterol is. That's another thing. And all this stuff.
Right.
All of a sudden, all these numbers have become a big deal. I don't know if that's healthy or not. Probably not. Maybe they
Live
don't
is
even
love
know.
first.
Yeah. Well, I remember you talked about intermittent fasting ages ago on the radio show. Have you ever done that?
We usually don't eat like today in order to, Jeanie went to pick up Aria, and she leaves here in just a couple minutes afternoon, and so we're just finishing off our breakfast as she goes to do that. So that's what we do. I usually get my first, I have a water bottle that I fill with hydrogen water, and I do my first 50 ounces of water before I eat a bite of food, and that's usually around, 11:30 or so. I was actually, I prepared breakfast this morning. I was actually, or brunch, whatever we call it. I was actually a little bit late, and Jeanie only got to eat half of hers before she had to leave to pick up Arya. But that's what we do, and then we usually have dinner 6. Sometimes it gets a little later than that, a little too late. But yes, that's our modus operandi.
Wow, that's amazing. And it's working, and you're in good health. Oh,
yes.
That's great.
Yeah, we've done that we've gotten into the routine of that since we've stopped being on the road 40 weeks of the year. And we're here in Bristol. So the last 4 or 5 years now, going on 5 years. It's actually pretty nice to live somewhere and put my head down in the same bed every night instead of a different
that must be.
bed every week. It's actually pretty sweet.
Oh, I don't know how you did it. That's really.
And well, and when we were doing it, actually on our TV, we have a TV in our bedroom, and the screensaver is our whole cache of pictures. So as they roll by, we're both doing something on our phones or what have you. We're just hanging out, and they're rolling by, and we'll stop. It's like, oh yeah, now let me see where. Oh, that was Rome. Oh yeah, I remember that. And oh no, there was Tibet. So there was an awesome, wonderful. There was an awesome wonder. I mean, I did that for 40 years, and I loved it. And I don't have a need to get up and go anywhere. It's like people go, oh, I want to do this travel. Yeah. It's like been there, done that, and I could still, enjoy a journey like that, but I have no need for it.
Right.
I'm just as happy to hang right here and go out and work in the garden.
Screensaver.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's on our. We've got a big screen TV in our room, and the screensaver goes by with I don't know how many pictures are behind it, but there are thousands, and there are the last 20 years of traveling and the kids, and we'll go back and I'll tap Jeanie on the shoulder, she'll tap me on the shoulder when one of those shots of Aria Rain comes up, and when she was 5 months and just her eyes beating out, just communicating, and so
that's great.
So that's fun. But so what if your mind could join every other mind on planet Earth and follow the directive, hear and live the directive that Yeshua gave that said, take no thought for the morrow?
Nice.
What if you were absolutely incapable of concern for what goes on beyond this instant? That you had so much trust in your own true being and in your relationship with the Creator and with the world that that in the same way as Yeshua said, look at the lilies of the field. David in all his raiment was never outfitted like one of those. What if you had that level of trust? And tomorrow and the next day and the next and the next. Rather than, and we go full circle where Jeanie started reading from Michael Singer's book about this problem-making device that's always got another problem for us to solve.
Oh, yeah, I was thinking about that. Here I was
no rest.
Circling along, yeah. Got to have another one. Right. That's true.
And, I've never looked at it. I'll have to see if I can find it in the Aramaic, but the word wicked has to relate to the word sin, Aramaic sin being an archery term,
right,
off the mark. And wicked would tie right into that. So that's saying no rest for the wicked, for those who are locked into generational patterns and can't let go to trust that one energy that's off the mark after another, after another, after another, and a structure in the mind that says yes. And if you don't have any problems right now, just wait till the other shoe drops. You better be afraid because it's coming.
Exactly, that's exactly what it is. Yeah, it would certainly make no difference if I paid no more attention to those numbers ever again and just went about my life doing the right things. I'm doing the right things. Fully on this, I guess.
Well, doing the right things, it doesn't mean you don't have to give any attention to it. I mean, if something's out of whack, we have some wonderful devices in the world can help us stay on track and spot things that we otherwise might not spot. But if they become a detractor from our peace, then what value are they? So put it in perspective. I get my blood checked. That's something I do. And if there's something off, I'm going to look at what do I need to do to get back on track here. But if I go into, a state of pressure building inside myself because now I have to, I don't trust the future.
Yeah.
So what if we joined in having total, complete trust that the Creator was telling the truth when the Creator said, I have only your good in my mind. I have only good things planned for you. I'm willing to trust that. And there's a saying in the Middle East that says, trust in Allah and tie your camel. Pay attention to things within reason, but don't get yourself into your, body parts in a ringer over it.
Right. Oh, that's so good. Yeah. All right. Well, thank you. That was pretty much I had prepared a tirade, but it didn't come out that way. It was just a very manageable discussion. Thank you.
Oh, well, let's hear the tirade.
No, I think I said it when I said I don't want to get old and be decrepit and a burden on my family. Yeah.
Right.
So.
Yeah, I heard you. Yeah. So that's your mind shifter.
Good one.
Let whatever that brings up and whatever comes up, let it yield to trust.
Oh, you know what, Michael? Oh, man. I'm turning 79, and that was the year my aunt, my father's sister, took her own life with the hemlock potion because she wasn't
She had the same concern you just voiced.
Yeah. And she didn't want to, but her life was much different than mine. She'd been a lifelong smoker and drinker. She had emphysema, bad osteoporosis, terrible pain enduring. I mean, you could see why she did. Byron Katie said, if someone takes their life, look upon it as an act of love toward themselves, that they did that for themselves to take themselves out of pain. Well, that's a hard order, but I understand what she's saying, and that's what my aunt was doing. She was doing that, and she was incredibly brave, and I think about how lonely that must have been. What a story that
would have been pretty tough, And
she called my... Go ahead.
Notice from the state that she was in that things had become so difficult for her. Imagine what kind of thought disorder she put into the genetics of the family.
Oh, no kidding.
And now you have the opportunity to face those thought disorders and remove them. I mean, in just one generation, remove them from the family rather than just let them sit there and fester until, 10 generations from now it's impacted the lives of tens of thousands of people. Your descendants. This to me is Jonas Salk saying the most important thing to be is a good ancestor.
Yeah.
That you get to clean that stuff
Wonderful.
up. That she maybe originated, or maybe simply repeated unconsciously in the family system, and that those were the things that drove her to drink and smoke and get her body into the condition she was in. And so to be, do that mind shifter in her name, maybe even do a worksheet for her, but do that mind shifter in her name to open all of that in the family system and let that stuff just literally be lifted off of the genetics. It's part of that genetic overlay, and just let it go.
Wow.
Maybe some descendants in line won't be driven to drink anymore as you resolve that, as she was driven to drink.
Yeah, my dad and my aunt, the two of them, 2 children, both alcoholics, and both really sickened themselves with it. My dad got heart disease and died fairly young, 73, I think he was, which isn't terribly young, but it's,
it's pretty young.
He had so much vitality. He died on the golf course having hit a really ace hole-in-one or something. He was bragging about it. What a way to go.
He was so excited he couldn't handle the excitement. Bless his heart.
He died.
Oh, geez, I finally got a hole-in-one, and I don't even get to celebrate it. Oh, that would be a bummer. Bless his heart. Oh, dear.
He was a very cute man, yeah. And he wasn't the kind of alcoholic that it imposed itself on anyone, but it was secret whenever he had the chance. He had bottles everywhere when he died. My mom found all his secret places. Oh.
Yeah. Well, there was an underlying pain that he didn't feel safe enough to share. So maybe in the work you're doing and opening up the willingness I've seen you over the last 3 or 4 years has been just monumental to process it one piece at a time. And this one is a big one.
Yeah, the idea of doing it for my aunt, it's almost that anniversary, and I'd love to talk to her daughter about that, because her daughter has never really been able to, know what to do with that.
Deal with it. Well,
yeah.
Maybe this is your invitation.
Maybe. Oh, boy. Well, thank you. I knew if I called you up, even though I didn't know how to put anything, it got put.
Well, and I appreciate how gracefully and how you're able to do it with humor. Things that are that's big stuff when you talk about watching an aunt get that up against the wall, that she chooses that way to end her life. It's like,
yeah.
So I support you opening your genetics to the point where if someone in your family chooses to go, we had the experience. It's for me. It's become such a model with Jeannie's dad. A man who hadn't sat up in well over a year sat bolt upright. His eyes popped out, and he just embraced and was embraced in whatever he was looking at, and took his last breath, and sweetly sacred space just left. It was like, let's create that sort of a system, that sort of a space for all of our families, that if someone chooses to go, they could do that rather than have to be driven by disease and suffering and pain and trauma.
Yeah.
That it's okay to just say, I'm leaving, bye. Oh, okay. See you on the journey.
That's so great. And it was wonderful how much how patient you were and how you supported him, and even though he was physically so frail and then getting forgetful, but I never heard a word about impatience or anything, but just allowing him to do it the way it was going to happen for him. And there's a lot of push against that in my family. You know, when you're up and you're no longer useful, you've got to check out. I mean, you don't want to be a burden to anybody. Good grief.
Mm-hmm.
That's a big deal.
So the last 4 years of Jeannie's dad's life, the point at which we chose to stop traveling, come here and live with him, were a major blessing for us. Fortunately, he is one of the few men that I know of that really rarely expressed any form of hostility toward anything or anybody.
Wow.
So we were blessed in that we had 4 years with him, but never a cross moment, never an argument, never a disturbance, never an upset. Sometimes, some fuss about, how are we going to get this done, or, what's happening?
Yeah.
But so we were blessed in that regard because he held that space. He was that space.
And you'd been on the road, and then you were doing Heartland, and then the pandemic hit, and you sort of needed a place like that. Holy mackerel.
It all fell in place. And then, of course, we were able to have Arya here with him, the first granddaughter or grandchild or great-grandchild that he actually was able to have time with, that he really spent a lot of time because she was here 2 or 3 days a week. And so, it was just the 4-year period was just a blessing for both of us.
That reminds me of that.
And the show's going to cut us off.
Okay.
What'd you say?
The show's going to cut us off, but go ahead until it tells us we're finished.
All things work for good for those who love God.
Yeah. Stay connected to love, and it impacts everything.
Mm-hmm. Thanks so much.
Without any conscious effort or thought by us. It's how the system's designed to work. Now, if we put some kind of conscious effort and thought in, and it's based in thought disorders, then we can do all kinds of drama and trauma and crazy stuff too. Everybody's got a choice.
Yeah.
It's sure worth deleting that stuff, though.
Thanks. Thank you.
All right, young lady, joining you in that trust.
Thanks. Thank you.
And opening the space for healing with your aunt.
Thanks. Appreciate it.
All right. Have a blessed one. Thanks for joining us, everyone.